So the karmic is trash. It's that simple. I'm not going to clean that up anyway. Just going to leave it at that. Karmics will look like a twin flame. They'll look like a soulmate. They'll look like everything you want. But here's how you tell the karmic right away. Karmics are messy. They come in with every excuse. They come in with every sob story. They come in with drama, trauma, all of it. And if you are unhealed or broken, you're going to call them in and love them. Instantly, if I meet someone and they're like, well, here's my life. My mama passed away. My dog died. I just got out of jail. I don't have a car. I don't have a job. I'm not saying that these people are bad, but if that's in all of one person's body, that don't sound karmic to you? That don't sound like a red flag to you? Because my instinct is run. Somebody else's, let me save them. No, thank you. Karma, you see that? When you feel the need to save somebody from their own stuff, that's called a karmic, because now you're taking on all their trauma, and now you're trauma bonding, and now you're trying to fix things in another adult's life that aren't easily fixable. You can fix them possibly, but you're not fixing that person. You're just fixing their life. That looks like you're coming in, when you have those hoarder shows and they come in and clean everything up, and then you go back and it's back to being hoarded because that person didn't heal, right? You can clean up the house. That don't mean you clean what's inside. So karmics are usually that. People get a karmic and try to do fixer-uppers. And then that karmic ends up breaking their heart or cheating on them or turning on them like, oh my God, I put all this work in. Yes, because you're both karmic. You thought that you could fix someone. And now you both are on this weird path of being messy together. And so in a karmic relationship, I'm not saying one person's messy. You're both messy because you have to subscribe to it in order for it to happen to you, right? You can't just sit around and complain about something and act like it's not your fault. If you created that energy, baby, it's your fault. Sorry to tell you. And I've been in situations in my past where I had karmic friendships. That's how I learned. I had a couple exes too, but some of the karmic friendships where I was giving them everything, anything they needed, dropping my life, stopping everything, coming over, helping, fixing anything. Not a thank you, not a anything, just, okay, expectations. No thank you, no nothing. And they'll let you keep doing that for them. They'll let you keep giving them everything, fixing everything, and they'll never say thank you. And if anything goes wrong, it's your fault because you told them to do something, and it's all your fault because you didn't listen, or they didn't listen to you, and it becomes this weird gaslighting back and forth connection, and it doesn't make sense. So anytime you feel yourself in this type of confusion of what are we, what is it, it's a karmic. It's not meant for you. It's not going to work. I have had people where they can start out as your twin flame and become your karmic. I've met people where they can be your soulmate and they can turn into a karmic if they're not healed, right? These connections exist because they're just doorways. And in these doorways, there's pathways that are going to take you every which way. And some of these pathways are going to look very similar to all of the other paths you've taken in all the other doors, but it doesn't mean it's the same journey. It just has a similar blueprint. It has a similar outfit. It's like different forces in other places, like the armies or whatever else. They have different outfits for their armies. Still the same entity, just different uniforms. So it's the same thing with some of these relationships with the twin flame, what I talked about. Twin flame is an instant connection. It can be somebody who is healed and you both have a beautiful healed connection where you jet off and fly somewhere and have as much coitus as you want and all that, and it's fun, and then eventually you both are like, this was fun, and it dwindles away and you both are cool with that. Unless in a karmic, one of you wants it and the other one doesn't. And that's where it becomes a karmic situation because this person's like, I was only in it for the coitus. And they were like, I was in it for the excitement. But you're not on the same path anymore, so it doesn't matter. If you're both in it for the coitus, it's going to keep working until you both don't want it. If you're both in it for the excitement, it's going to keep working until you both don't want it. But once the other person don't want it and the other one still wants it, that's what makes a twin flame to me. The same thing for a soulmate. You can have a soulmate where you meet this person. They're not your usual type. They're not going to be what you usually go after. When I say a usual type, it's not about just looks. It's about personality. It's about mindset. It's about education. It's about all those things. It's like, you're not somebody I would usually go for or talk to, but there's something about you that I feel comfortable with you and I'm attracted to you. And again, this is where people feel like they're settling because they gave somebody a shot they wouldn't normally give a shot to, and it feels good. But even in this connection, if you have somebody who's, again, soulmates start out like this, and they're going on different paths, but as long as that bond is together, they're together, right? Still different paths, but together. Twin flame, not bonded, different paths. Starts out the same, instantly not the same. Soulmates, they can start out different, but as long as they're bonded, it doesn't matter which way they flip. They're bonded, right? That's why it's important to understand that if you meet someone who's not your usual type, you have to keep learning how to grow with them. But if they are karmic themselves, where they start feeling like you think you're better than them or they don't want to invest in the same energy the way you want to, then a soulmate can also become karmic. And that's when you're like, why did I give that big head little boy a chance? He ain't even my type. Because you were willing to let your soul decide if their soul was attracted to someone else's soul and not just their body. So it does suck when the soul is not healed and you're like, I gave that body a chance. Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's not going to change if you find someone hot. It just goes back to twin flame, because you can have somebody who's hot and you still don't know their soul, and their soul can be totally evil. And you're like, but their body's hot. And it's like, well, that's why you have a lot of celebrities where people are obsessed with them because they're hot, but they're still not good people, right? Those are twin flame connections. Soulmate, again, is they might not be that hot to you, but you have a connection. So if they do screw you over and it hurts, that's what makes it karmic. Karmic only means you're putting up with bad behavior, and you shouldn't. That's all. So if you're letting someone in your life that you know ain't worth it from the get-go, but you still did it anyways, that means you're in survival mode and you don't see your value and you're okay with putting yourself in that situation, right? So you can only end up in a karmic situation because you chose to be. No one forces you to be. No one accidentally ends up there. Karmics are literally because you're lonely, you're lustful, you're bored, whatever, and you gay and you just went with anybody, and that's what happened, right? Default, sometimes it happens when you meet the person you want and that person was masking and lying, and then that's where it's like, okay, I did not choose a karmic. I did not know they were karmic. I thought they were a good person. They bamboozled me. And that's the part where, again, it's dualistic. It's all going to sound confusing, but that's why I said, think of a tree. You have two main branches. You got the good path and what we call the bad path. If you choose the good path, or the good path, there's still bad things that can happen on the good path, but it doesn't mean that it's bad in general for your path. It just means you have to learn. You can take the bad path, and good things could be happening. But eventually you realize those good things were all ego and they weren't really meant for you. So yeah, it was good in the moment, but it's still not the right path because you're confused, you're hurting, and you're like, wow, how did I get here? How am I with this person who's always making me feel crappy and confused and alone? Well, because you keep taking this path and you see only the good on this bad path versus taking the good path. And yes, sometimes things aren't going to work out the way you want, but I'd rather be on the good path learning how to help my ego through this versus feeding my ego crappy stuff and becoming more distorted and unhealthy, right? So this is how I look at it. Again, none of this is for sure a guaranteed truth, but from my experience, this is how I've learned it. So just as a summation, twin flames are instant connections, breathtaking moments. You both see each other from across the room and you instantly want each other, but usually it burns out eventually once you get what you want out of each other. Soulmate connections, you see them around, you see them once in a while, you have a connection. It's a slow burn. You don't know if it's going to be anything or not. Eventually, you guys keep getting used to each other and you start learning more about each other and respecting more about each other, and you end up bonding in that way. And once that bond is there, you're usually pretty solidified, which is how people end up getting to marriage and stuff. Karmics are garbage. That's all you have to remember. Don't date garbage. I hope this was helpful and I hope it made sense. Anywho, love ya.